Those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Anjali Kamat.
Welcome, everyone. Today, we spend the hour on the controversy around the proposed construction of an Islamic community center in Lower Manhattan, an issue that has dominated the news over the past few days. Opposition to the center first started among fringe right-wing blogs who labeled it the Ground Zero Mosque. Over the past few weeks, the issue has been swept into the mainstream, with President Obama ultimately weighing in last week. The proposed facility, called Park 51, is actually 2 blocks from Ground Zero and is described by the Cordoba Initiative, which is spearheading it, as a community center which will house, quote, a gym, pool, restaurant, a 500-person auditorium, a 9/11 memorial, a multi-faith chapel office, and a conference space and a prayer space. The project is headed by Imam Faisal Abdul Rauf, a Muslim cleric who's been labeled by right-wing critics as an extremist. In fact, Imam Faisal traveled overseas in 2006 with one of President Bush's closest aides, Karen Hughes. He also helped the FBI with counterterrorism efforts after 9/11. The proposed community center has nevertheless sparked national headlines, with Republicans vowing to make the controversy a campaign issue in the fall. President Obama addressed the issue on Friday during an iftar dinner celebrating the Islamic holy month of Ramadan in the White House State Dining Room.
The 9/11 attacks were a deeply traumatic event for our country. And the pain and the experience of suffering by those who lost loved ones is just unimaginable. So I understand the emotions that this issue engenders. And Ground Zero is indeed hallowed ground. But let me be clear. As a citizen and as president, I believe that Muslims have the right to practice their religion as everyone else in this country. And that includes the right to build a place of worship and a community center on private property in Lower Manhattan in accordance with local laws and ordinances. This is America, and our commitment to religious freedom must be unshakable. The principle that people of all faiths are welcome in this country and that they will not be treated differently by their government is essential to who we are.
Less than 24 hours later, President Obama was asked about the Islamic Community Center by a reporter and appeared to backtrack from his statement of the night before.
I was not commenting, and I will not comment on the wisdom of making a decision to put a mosque there. I was commenting very specifically on the right that people have that dates back to our founding. That's what our country is about.
Meanwhile, Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid this week became the most prominent Democrat to oppose the construction of the facility when he said it should be built in another location.
Well, my statement, I think, is pretty simple. The Constitution gives us freedom of religion. I think that it's very obvious that the mosque should be built someplace else. And that's what I said.
In New York, Governor David Paterson's office said yesterday that they will meet with the developers of the Cordoba House project. Last week, Paterson offered the developers state-owned land to relocate the center far away from Ground Zero. The developers rejected the offer. They also denied that any meeting has been scheduled with Paterson. Project developer Sharif El-Gamal was interviewed on local news station New York One on Tuesday. He criticized lawmakers who are opposing the center.
It's a really sad day for America when our politicians choose to look at a constitutional right and use that as basis for their elections. This is not a debate. This is not a debate. This is us as Muslim Americans giving back to our community.
Today, we spend the hour on this issue. We'll speak with the first Muslim elected to Congress, Minnesota Congressmember Keith Ellison. Rabbi Erwin Kula is with us. He's supporting the Cordoba House. Islamic scholar John Esposito will join us. And we're joined by Talat Hamdani. Her son Salman died on 9/11 in the attacks on the World Trade Center. Salman was 23 years old. He was a police cadet, an emergency medical technician. He had a degree in biochemistry and was headed to his job as a research assistant at Rockefeller University when the planes hit. First, we're going to go back 7 years. It was on the eve of September 11, 2003. It was there that I met Talat and her now late husband, Mohammed Salim Hamdani, as they walked to Ground Zero, honoring the dead and talking about their son.
Actually, I was sleeping that time, and my sister-in-law, she called me and she said, did you heard something? I said, no, and she said that one tower already fall down. And the first word from my mouth was that, oh my God, my son is there.
We tried to contact him on his cell, Salman, but he wasn't answering. And then I remembered the day before when he came home, he had forgotten his cell phone on the job. He worked at Rockefeller, which is 65 Street and York Avenue. So being the type of person that he was, an EMT and a police cadet, and apart from being an EMT and police cadet, he a very, kind person, very generous, very helpful. We knew he would go down to help over there. I mean, if he saw such a disaster, he would respond to it. There was a call given out for all the EMTs to come forward for the rescue help. And finally, his brother, my husband's brother, went to his office and they told him he never reported to work. And we waited for him to call home that night. The first night I wasn't worried. My husband was. I wasn't worried, but then, so the next, that's how the day went by, just waiting for him to call, and the call that never came. And the third day we went down to the center that they had made for the families to come and write give their names of their loved ones. Armory it was, yes, it was the Armory. We went down there and we registered his name and we gave our swab samples for the DNA. And we made a flyer searching for him. We put down his name as Sal Hamdani. My brother did not put down his name, the first name Mohammed, for certain reasons. And we searched for him. Nobody had seen him. We went down the following weeks. We went down to the Ground Zero itself, asking the firemen, showing them his picture. Maybe they saw him. But nobody saw him at all.
Talat and Salim Hamdani talking about their son Salman, who died at Ground Zero on September 11th, 2001. Talat Hamdani is with us now. Thank you so much for being with us. I know that's hard for you to see because you're both not only talking about your son, but after that, a year later, you lost your husband, Salim.
Thank you for having me. Yes, it's traumatic. Yes, definitely.
I mean, the story of your son is a remarkable one because he was like many first responders who went down and died. But the story got more complicated. Talk about what happened when you went first looking all over for him, going to the hospitals, to the morgues, then you went to Mecca to pray for him.
A month later, yes.
And at that time, a New York Post headline appeared